Losing a loved one is one of life's hardest feats, but losing the two most important people in your life 3 years apart to the day isn't something many of us have experienced. Amy Morin was a therapist turned author who never realized how much she'd need to build her own mental muscles until the death of her mother and husband. That's today's DBL Spotlight.
I'm Amy Morin, and I live on a sailboat in the Florida Keys. Life wasn't always this good. In fact, I had to overcome some pretty rough circumstances to get to where I am today. I started my career as a psychotherapist, thinking I was going to teach people what I'd learned in college about mental strength. I never really realized how much I was going to need mental muscles myself, but when I was 23, my mother passed away suddenly from a brain aneurysm. And in that moment, I decided I was going to figure out why some people came into my therapy office and they grew from tough times in their life and why some people stayed stuck. Because it was like I had a revolving door of case studies all day long of people who were going through tough times, and some of them learned from their pain, and I wanted to know what separated them from other people that felt like they were reduced by their pain. One of the things I realized early on was that people who were able to thrive after going through tough times, it was often more about what they didn't do rather than what they did do. People who grew from their pain didn't have certain bad habits. So as I studied those people, I started making sure that I adopted those things in my life, that I didn't do the things that could drain me of mental strength. And I was glad that I did, because on the 3-year anniversary of the day that my mother passed away, my 26-year-old husband died of a heart attack. And it took a long time to heal my broken heart and figure out, how do I get through this? And a few years later, after a lot of hard work, I was fortunate to find love again. And I got remarried, got a new job, got a new house. Life was looking pretty good. But just then, my father-in-law was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I just remember thinking, I can't go through this again. I've grieved for so long. I don't want to grieve any longer. So I sat down and I wrote myself a letter of what mentally strong people don't do. And it was all of those things that I learned in my therapy office. And I found that letter to be really helpful. So I thought, if it helps me, maybe it could help someone else. So I published it on the internet and expected a few people to read it. But 50 million people read that letter, including a literary agent who encouraged me to write a book. At first I hesitated because I don't usually share my own story. I'm a therapist. I listen to people's stories. I don't tell my own. But I decided to go ahead and share my story with the world, and my life has never been the same since.
Amy, thank you for sharing your story with us. We've got to know, what don't mentally strong people do?
Well, mental strength has to do with the way you think, feel, and behave. So as we build mental strength, we give up the thoughts that aren't helpful, the emotions that we sometimes stay stuck in, and the behaviors that hold us back in life. So if viewers want to know what's one quick thing they can do to become mentally stronger, maybe just name your feelings. Studies show that putting a label to your emotions, especially the uncomfortable ones, takes a lot of the sting out of it.
Your list was read by more than 50 million people, including a lit agent that offered you a book deal, of course. So what do you think made the list go viral?
I think one of the first articles that was really about what not to do. There are so many lists about what to do, but most of us have a long to-do list already. And the last thing we want to know is, what else do I need to be doing today? And it was also one of the first articles to talk about mental strength. And that's something people often confuse with mental health. We know you can go to the gym and you can build muscle, but we also know that just because you have big muscles, it doesn't guarantee you won't ever develop a physical health problem, like you still might get high cholesterol. Same can be said for mental strength and mental health, that building mental strength is the key to living your best life. But if you develop something like depression and anxiety, it's not necessarily a sign of weakness.
Well, recently you gave a TED Talk, and you even have your own podcast for the biggest mental health website in the world, Very Well Mind. Tell us, how has this podcast helped you to help others?
It's been so fun because we do 2 episodes a week. Every Monday, we interview either a celebrity or an author or an expert, and we ask them for their mental strength tips. How do they stay mentally strong in their own lives? And we've gotten to interview people like Matthew McConaughey and Nikki Sixx, and they share how the steps they're taking every day to feel better and what's working for them.
You hit some red, yellow lights, pauses in our life where we go, ooh, we shouldn't slow down for the red light. Sometimes we should put the pedal to the metal and blow through it and go, I'm not giving that crisis credit.
And then as a therapist, at the end of every episode, I break it down into the therapist's take to say, here's how you might apply it, or here's why these strategies work. For example, one is called Smell the Pizza, where we talk about
pizza.
Pretend like you're smelling a delicious piece of pizza by breathing in slowly through your nose. And then you breathe out like you're cooling the really hot piece of pizza off. And just doing that like 3 times calms your brain, calms your body. Simple breathing exercise, but it's easy to remember when you put it in those terms, because who doesn't want to smell a piece of pizza?
What was your advice for people who are trying to bravely and boldly make that first step?
For anyone who feels like you're in a slump, the best thing you can do is what we call in the therapy office DSD, do something different. Keep experimenting with things until you figure out what works best for you. It might be a simple change to your routine, developing a new habit, getting rid of a habit that's not working. You never know what little shift might make a huge difference in your life until you try.
Everybody go get this book. Thank you so much for your openness, Amy.
Absolutely.
We love the story and the messages you're getting across to people to help them better themselves. So DBL Nation, like I said, you can get a copy of one of Amy's books wherever books are sold, and you can listen to her Very Well Mind podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, even if you're on a boat in the Florida Keys. Amy, it has been an honest pleasure, and I will read this book cover to cover. Thanks again.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Thanks for having me.